morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am thrilled to be here today with Eitan to share with you the Kabbalistic perspective on overcoming fear of change and transition. If we're honest with ourselves, we all fall prey to resistance when change and transition threaten to change our plans, our perspectives, our trajectories, and also our expectations. So today, also in line with the shifting the way we self-reflect over the past year, we want to encourage and incorporate these ideas about facing and embracing change and transition as a part of our spiritual journey. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast in which we share with our listeners the most practical and powerful ways to navigate the coming 7 days according to the wisdom of Kabbalah. And in sharing stories, concepts, and techniques, each episode offers practical tools and wisdom that can be used at any time. And this week is no different. If you've been listening, this month we focused the work of the month of Virgo on self-reflection, evaluation, understanding the opportunities that are unique to this month and how they each week affects the coming year. This week is no different. A lesson that came up that's been sticking out in my mind over the past few weeks since we shared it is the idea that the universe often brings us opportunities, what we would call to wake up or to shake things up so as to move us into another version or a more elevated version of ourselves. And we can embrace those opportunities proactively. So often, and this is what we shared a few weeks ago, resisting those opportunities creates unnecessary drama and chaos. And today we want to dig deeper into how these opportunities can really serve us, what Kabbalah says around why they happen, when they happen, and how to allow ourselves to ride the waves of change and transition instead of being crushed by them. So Eitan, I want to turn the mic over to you first. I think generally speaking, we misinterpret fear of change and transition, the resistance that we have when things look different or feel different than we plan or we desire. We tend to take it as a punishment or a bad sign. What does Kabbalah have to say about change and transition?
So, first, part of the rules of the games of life, Kabbalistically, is that when you are in the entrance, in the gate towards change, we all going to have resistance from within and sometimes from outside. The resistance might present itself as fear, as doubt, as it's not the right timing right now. So let's be practical. What can be first, before we give to the how and what is the Kabbalistic perspective about it, sometimes we know I need to make certain commitment that I know in my gut it's the right thing to do, but I'm afraid for whatever reason. It's uncomfortable, I'll feel trapped, I'm afraid, it's unknown, at least now I'm secure. That's one thing. Or sometimes you know that the change means say goodbye to certain habits, to certain friends. You know in your gut it's the right thing, but you will have all the resistance in the mind and in the heart for why not? Doubt, fear, unknown, uncertainty, that you might know that initially the transition will be uncomfortable. Like any transition, initially it's uncomfortable when you begin. So first step to know is the resistance that we have within us. It's part of the game. Don't judge it. Don't just push it away. Don't just ignore it. Don't judge yourself. How come I'm not courageous? I know it's the right thing to take a risk and to start a new business and to let go of this addiction that I have and to call that person and to ask for forgiveness in order to heal this relationship and to be humble enough to admit I was wrong. Changes might appear in so many ways. And then comes fear and then comes doubt. How do you handle it? First, accept that it's part of the game of life. I'm here in order to change and to move and to have transition to my next spiritual level. And as a result, physical experiences in my life, there is a curtain stopping me getting there. And we all have it. And that's part of the game of life, because one of the basic Kabbalistic principles, in order to go to your next level of enlightenment, of blessings, of growth, of true fulfillment in your life, you need to overcome greater challenge within. So that's the first. Don't judge yourself for having the resistance. The second thing is, and maybe I'll bring it back to you, what is some of the tools to go through this transition to the next level? How do you deal with that curtain? Fear, doubt, which we all have. Seeing clearly that it's going to be uncomfortable initially, or the unknown. So first, know it's okay. It's exactly part of your journey. If you don't need to go through that barrier, change will not be sustainable and will have some side effects. So back to you, and then I'll share, Elisheva. What would you say some of the techniques you are using to break through that barrier, which is necessary to be there? And each one of us, according to our tikkun, specific life lessons, specific signs of the zodiac, we have our own way that we need to learn how to deal with that breakthrough.
Well, for me, obviously, it's a journey. And as a water sign and representing all the water signs out there, feeling a sense of control is definitely something I value. And part of my own personal journey has been to let go, to learn to surrender, to allow a process to unfold without the need to know, to be prepared for all the scenarios and the different ways that we all cope with change. For me, anytime that I'm faced with an unknown, with an uncertainty, when I say uncertainty, meaning I don't know how it's going to be tomorrow or how it's going to look or how it's going to turn out, I do my best, and this is a kind of balancing act between I may have my worry or my fear or my concern, but I try to activate my higher consciousness to tap into a time when I did take a risk, when there was uncertainty, when I didn't know how things were going to turn out, and I grew my level of trust and courage, and it worked out better than I could imagine. And I think that that's a tool we haven't talked about in a long time, really using the power of visualization, of imagination, of cellular memory to tap into the strength that was there before and can be there for me again. So it happened actually this week that a situation that I don't know that I took it for granted, but I accepted it as a given. It is a part of my life, and it disappeared. It's not there anymore. Suddenly, unpredictably, just such an unusual feeling for me, and definitely perfect for my self-reflection journey as I look at all of the other times in this year that the universe pulled the rug from under my feet and how I responded. So, of course, it was a big lesson for me in terms of recognizing that as much as I appreciated that situation, and I was tremendously grateful, and I counted that as a blessing regularly, it never occurred to me that it wouldn't exist forever. And so part of me looking toward the future and not knowing how reality might look as a result of its absence. And by the way, even without going into the details, you can put your own, losing a job, a breakup, a friend moving away, loss of anything, basically. You can fill in your own blank here. You know how you feel right now, but you don't know how the future is going to look, or how the plans you had in your head are going to play out, and all the things that come up when something that was once there is now missing. I realized, and I went back in my own personal history, and I connected with the times in the past where something similar happened. And I realized, and I reminded myself, so even though I had those moments of, oh my goodness, how, just like laughing almost, how this is happening again, and what a beautiful, I felt so taken care of by the universe to be shown, here's another place where you can level up right now. That I remembered those times in the past when I was in a similar situation, and on the other side of my wrestling with it was so much more of a beautiful reality. Just to remind myself that the real obstacle is actually my perception of what the unknown might be, rather than living in the unknown, going forward in it, creating a new reality with different elements. That the universe is a beneficent universe. It's always going to try and elevate me, and sometimes trying to hold on to my security blanket or my pacifier is actually what's holding me back from experience more blessing, more fulfillment, more connection, and all the things that we desire. So for me, one of the techniques that helps me the most is actually connecting back to a time in the past, right? In the spiritual reality, we teach that there's no time or space. So by going back to a previous time and attaching my consciousness, my energy to that, I draw from the resources that I had then that are always there for me, it's not then, it's in me right now. And I can begin to move forward, even if I don't have all the details and I don't know exactly how it's going to look. That sense of courage and strength comes from the source that's always within me. I've had it before, I can have it now, and I'll always have access to it.
That's beautiful. So what you're saying, Elisheva, the ability to remember sometime that you had this breakthrough, and then to envision the end result, instead of being focusing of all the discomfort that you're dreading.
Right.
I'll tell you what worked for me and for many of my students. So for example, some of the challenge I worked with towards changing is being with ease and with comfort with difficult conversations. Sometimes we need to have difficult conversations. And I recognize that maybe there's some fear of judgment, of rejection. There's a fear of being a little bit too vulnerable with this difficult conversation. Then I'll expose myself and I might feel hurt. That's subconscious fears that I realize that I have. And in the past, I thought that courage is just push through it. You need to do it, just do it. Just jump into it. Jump into that cold water. Because you need to do it, you need to overcome your fear, and if you're not courageous. And what I've learned for myself, I would do it that way, just do it and push through it and having that conversation. But there's no real change. Again, it's uncomfortable. And again, it's draining. And then I realized for myself, and it's based on the teaching, so what really will allow true transformation and change? Not just do what's uncomfortable, to really shift when it comes to conversation, that I'm having this conversation more with joy and with ease and with presence, and it's actually empowering. So the idea is, I would identify specifically what is the discomfort I'm dreading to feel, that it's in between and my next level. And then I would envision myself and telling the universe, actually, I would like, instead of, I don't want to feel discomfortable, but I'll do it anyway. Actually, I would like to feel a little moment of rejection. I would love to feel the fear of rejection. And I've learned to actually allow myself to feel the fear. Instead of overcoming the fear, I want to feel the fear. I want to feel my chest. I want to feel the heart palpitation, the little anxious feeling, because within that barrier between the now me and the changed me, Kabbalistically we're saying, the sparks of energy, of light, of growth that I need for my next level, available within this uncomfortable feeling. So instead of pushing through this uncomfortable feeling or denying this comfortable feeling, I want to feel it. And I'll tell you practically how I saw actual changes. I used to hate very cold water. Now, me and my wife love ice bath. Okay? And at the beginning, I used to be able to do ice bath just for 30 seconds. And then I've learned in the same way that as I'm entering to the ice bath, I'm asking myself, where is it painful and it's cold and it's unbearable? And then I say, wow, I would love to feel it. That specific, wow, it's in my neck. I want to feel this cold. There's so much great energy of growth in it. And beside the fact that it's not painful anymore, you feel tremendous illumination and elevations. And I could do now 4 minutes of ice bath, actually, every time. And I'm getting a great kick out of that. So instead of thinking courage is to push through it, courage is to feel the fear. Don't envision the future. To feel the fear of, I'll be judged, I will not be judged. Feel that energy. Instead of ignoring it, fighting it, thinking it's bad. It's not. And actually, and then envision yourself go through it. And believe it or not, because you're willing to feel it, you desire from sending the message to the universe, I don't want to feel this pain, to actually, I'm interested to feel this temporary discomfort. You get sense of courage and strength to do things with ease.
You brought up a very subtle point in what you were sharing, and I think it's worth discussing it simply because, again, we're in the month of Virgo, and it's the theme is very much about assessing our past. Obviously, from the just few minutes that you and I are sharing, we've emphasized the value in embracing the fear of change and growth. What about all the times in our past where we resisted it, where we avoided it, where we ran from it, or like you said, let's get it over with, and then it really doesn't become a part of our true essence? How do we go back, or what's the way to make sure that we don't miss that opportunity going forward?
It's a very good point, because Kabbalistically, any past actions or any past behavior that we did not focus to really learn the lessons and truly transform still is within us. And if it was negative past behavior, it becomes a barrier for the future. So in a way, the past, it's not in the past, still within me. So it's so important, especially in this period of time, to revisit the past. And what the Kabbalah is recommending is actually look at those moments that you didn't pass the test and you were controlled by the fear and you didn't move forward towards your next level, you didn't make the right choices, and you see clearly that as a result, you chose limited life. Instead of a breakthrough to your next level, you kept attracting similar negative pattern in your life. And you see clearly it's because you didn't have the courage. Maybe the other person was not okay, but you didn't have the strength. So what we would do, we would go back in our mind, in our daily reflection and meditation to one specific incident that I was at the fork, go through this discomfort, willing to embrace it, to feel it, and to surrender and to trust, versus choosing comfort, choosing our small life, choosing to stay limited in my comfort zone, and then re-choose. Envisioning yourself, it's uncomfortable, but I'm taking deep breath, and I'm actually choosing to go through this temporary discomfort. And actually, how do you know it's a real reflection? When you feel the fear again. And after you're doing it a few times, you're ready to say to the universe, next time that situation will come, I'll make sure I'll recognize I'm in the fork between go back to the old me or connecting to the new me. And believe it or not, the same experience will repeat itself in a different way, even in the next couple of weeks. Because that's how the universe works. When you take responsibility, you learn lessons from the past in order to make sure it's really learned, will be experience that will give you a chance to act differently. And sometimes it's not done after one time because there's so many layers of change to the next level in any aspect in our life, of letting go of addiction, of having hard conversations, of having the courage to speak up and to take more control for those of you, or having more patience and less reactivity with some people that we hurt in the past, each one of us in our own area of change.
I'm as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the concept of certainty, which is something that we teach in Kabbalah 1. It's an area of growth that we never really master. We can always go to another level of certainty. And the word certainty, as we define it in Kabbalah, is the knowledge, the knowing that the light of the Creator is behind everything and everything is for my good, right? That the light of the Creator is an endless force of giving, and that force is behind everything that happens in my life, no matter how it feels or looks or seems. And so I wonder, with so many of us focused on strengthening our certainty, our trust in the light, but also at the same time falling into patterns of fear, falling into patterns of resisting change. And even in the midst, I'm working with a few people that they're in the midst of a transition right now. And there is almost like an unconscious response on a daily basis to like, oh, this again, it's not over yet. When's it going to be over? Even though they're working spiritually on trusting in the light, knowing the Creator has their back, knowing that their soul is driving the process, there still is that almost allergic reaction to challenge and to change, which is this again. How can we bridge that space between my moment to moment mindset and the bigger picture of I know it's all for my best?
Yeah, what you're saying is very important. How do you define any success or even comfort or even joy? Actually, Kabbalistically, is developing an habit of surrendering and trusting the unknown. One of the ways to measure ourselves, how we're growing spiritually and as human being. And actually, if you're asking, what is the main cause that will awaken more joy in our life? The ability, number one, is of course gratitude and appreciation, which in the past we spoke about it, the blessing that are clear. But number two is the ability to welcome unknown and situation that I'm out of control in our life. And if you start to realize that this is joy, so instead of, oh, I want comfort, that's what will make me joyful. We always have a desire for comfort, that's part of who we are, but developing greater skills to embrace unknown with acceptance and surrender and trust and certainty that in that unknown, the light is there, and actually started to practice emotional attachment to it. What does it mean? It's not just, I know I'm in the unknown and it's good and I'm trusting in a certainty in the light in the universe. No. Try to start even faking it. I'm excited. It's unknown. I'm excited. I wake up in the morning. I'm exhausted. In my head, I'm looking how the day should look like. There's nothing excited. Actually, you're saying, I'm excited. Amazing day today. Why? Because it's unknown how excitement will manifest itself. Think about it. The energy of the universe is unlimited. It's endless. Relative to us, it's always beyond the known. So every time I'm embracing out of control, unknown, uncomfortable, don't see the future, lack clarity, uncertainty, how things will work out, it's a key that the light is here. The energy of the universe watching your back. Inject mind and heart, emotions. I'm excited about it. Don't think about it. Don't try to figure it out.
So true. It is so, so true. And I see even in my own life and the people who are closest to me, we get those lessons constantly, right? You think you know what's for dinner and then dinner burns. You think you know what's on TV and then they put there's so many different ways in which the universe is really supporting us, not to be disappointed or frustrated, but to ease into enjoying the unknown, welcoming the unknown, rejoicing in the unknown. So I love that that's the work of this week for everyone. And to that point, next week's episode is going to focus on the very specific opportunities that we have coming at us on Thursday and Friday. So for those of you who normally listen later in the week, I want to encourage you to make time to listen on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday so that you can be best equipped to take advantage of that once in a year opportunity we're going to talk about next week. I also want to remind you that Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can follow us on those platforms to receive more wisdom and inspiration to apply what we share every week. You can also visit our website, weeklyenergyboost.com, where we share the information and ways to connect to the things that we think are important for our listeners. You can also click the donate button there and support our podcast. But as always, continue to like, to share, to rate and review wherever you're listening. Bring that ease and joy of change and transition into the lives of your friends and family just by clicking share. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.